from the kitchen, folks. I'm sure if you're a home brewer like me, every now and again you make an absolute stinker. I've done that with this, and unfortunately it was a big batch as well. So this is an apple hops and sumac wine. You might have seen my opening and tasting video, which ended with my face going, "Ooh," because it's blooming horrible. It's my own fault. I think I left it on the lees for too long and it's just made the flavour go bad. It smells okay, but it's not drinkable. So I'm going to use this to make some gin. And I'm going to do so using the AirStill Pro, which has been loaned to me by those fabulous fellas at brewathome.shop. Check them out. Thank you very much for loaning me this, by the way. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill the AirStill drum with my rubbish wine, and I've got plenty more bottles of this. And once I've got the AirStill Pro full, I'm going to run it on reflux mode to make what will essentially be a 70% spirit. It'll probably start to come out near a 90, but it'll probably finish or average up near a 70. Yeah, some of these bungs are a pain to get off. This was meant to be sparkling. I mean, it's rancid stuff. Oh God, it's just awful. It's like when I first used to homebrew when I was a teenager and I took shortcuts and I couldn't be bothered to do it right. I'm so annoyed at myself for making something so bad. But it's 15% ABV, so it's great for going in the AirStill because it's the same strength as a wash pretty much. So I've got to fill this drum right up to the full mark. Once I've done that, I'll come back to you. Okay, I've just got to the full line at the back there. So I'm going to put the AirStill together. I'm not sure if it's all in frame or not, but at the bottom there is an electrical inlet which comes from this bit at the top. Now the AirStill Pro has got this column, and in reflux mode it's absolutely fantastic. Pot still mode, not keen on it. I might as well just use a normal AirStill. But I've enjoyed using it in reflux mode, and I'm just going to line the top up with the base to get the electrics in right. That's done. And the other thing to point out is the nozzle on the AirStill Pro. There's one for reflux mode, there's one for pot still mode. One's got an R on for reflux, one's got a P on for pot still. Make sure you get the right nozzle in. Don't ask me why, I've got no idea, but that's the instructions. If you do know actually, tell me in the comments, because I would be interested to know what the difference is in the nozzles, as they both look quite identical. So I'm just going to get the rest of the still set up. Once I've got this set up and ready to go, I'll come back to you. Okay, everything's in place and I'm ready to begin. So this is the 4 Shots collection vessel. So when it first starts to produce the spirit, the first, I think it's 30 ml or so, goes into there. And then after that, everything will come out and it will come into this bottle here. I'll probably need to change the bottle. But basically to get started, it's simply a case of press it once to turn it on, and press it and hold it till it turns green. Let go, fan kicks in for a second on top. And then it shuts itself off, and what's happening now is the drum is going to come up to temperature. When it gets to temperature, the fan kicks in, it will draw the vapour up, cool it, and that will come into this bottle just here. Now you know what I'm doing because you've seen the title of the film, and I've really only just sort of decided what I'm going to do myself. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to make, first of all, a vodka, just a straight spirit. Then I'm going to dilute it, and I'm going to rerun it again, and I'm going to run it into some juniper berries, some dried orange, and some dried apple. So I'm going to make an orange gin and a separate apple gin, but I'm not putting any of the fruit in the drum. I could do, and there's a botanicals basket which I could also use, but I'm not using any of that sort of stuff. I'm going to flavour it after I've made the spirit. So I'll come back to you when something's happening. See you in a bit. Well, just a little update because I can hear something's happening. I don't think there's anything in here yet. No, there's nothing in the 4 Shots collection vessel, but the drum is definitely getting up to temperature. You can hear the boil or the simmer. So as usual, I turn my back for 2 minutes and it's all happening. So you can see that the collections of the 4 Shots has taken place in there. We've got a nice drip coming through right now from the nozzle into this bottle. I'll give you an update in a bit. Okay, it's a few hours later and it's still drip, drip, dripping. I haven't quite filled this bottle yet. It's 2/3 of the way up. It's a bit of a long and slow job in reflux mode, I have to say. But the quality of the product is pretty good. So I guess it's one of those cases of patience being a virtue. Okay, this bottle's getting quite full, so I'm going to have a little swap over. So I'm just going to put that there. We've got a clean, empty demijohn. Pour this in. This is going to be extremely high strength spirit. And it comes out quite warm as well. I'll put the airlock in the demijohn, and that's what I've got so far. The next update I do will be when it's finished. I'll come back to you then. Hey folks, right, it's done. Let's have a look. And I have managed to get 700 ml of very high strength spirit out of those 4 bottles of 15% wine that went into the air still. This will be, I've not measured the alcohol, but this will be somewhere between 70 and 80% probably. So I'm just going to pop this into my demijohn. You've got to treat this stuff with respect. It's basically petrol. So that is now keeping it protected, and I'm just going to put this somewhere dark and cool. I've got to put the rest of the wine now through the air still. It's going to take me a couple of days because each run of the air still in reflux mode takes about 6 or 7 hours. It's a long job. So I'll come back to you when it's all through and I've collected all the alcohol. Then we'll look at the ABV and the next steps. Right, catch you then. Right, so this is what 15 750 ml bottles produces on reflux mode in the Air Still Pro. I reckon there's about 2 litres there. Let's have a look. So bearing in mind it was 15 bottles at 15%. And you know what, it's going to come in. It's just over, slightly over 2 litres. Okay, so bearing in mind this stuff is petrol. So I've ended up with 2 litres at 89% ABV. So the run that I've already done through the air still, I'm going to call the stripping run. It stripped out all the nasties. The next one will be the spirit run, where I create the pure base spirit. But before I do that, I've got something else to go into the air still, because I have a demijohn of a beer. This is the rest of it just here. But this was the final demijohn when I racked it out of the big bucket, and it's just not looking that good. So I'm going to stick that through the air still too. So when I've run that demijohn through the air still and I've got all my clean spirit together, then I'll come back to you and we'll take it to the next step. So I'll catch you in a couple of days. Hey folks, it's the next day and this is now all of the base spirit together. So this is the stuff from the demijohn of beer added to what was in there previously. So I've now got over 2 litres, probably about 2 and maybe a half litres in there. Now this is going to be near enough 90%, and I need to get this down to 40% or below to rerun it through the air still. So the first thing I'm going to do is stick some water in this. Just normal tap water at this point. So I'm just going to fill the demijohn pretty much to the top. Doesn't matter if I over dilute it, because it'll still extract the alcohol from there, whatever it goes in at. So there it is filled up and it's gone white. I think that effect is called loushing. I seem to have read that online somewhere. I'm not quite sure what the chemical reaction for that is, but or the reason for that is, but yeah, anyway, there you go. So it won't stay white, it will clear, but that's where I am now. So I'm going to dip the alcometer in there and see what this sits at. And at the minute it's still on 45%. So it's still too strong to go into the air still. But what I'm going to do is pour half of this into the air still and then add a jug of water. That will bring it down then to a reasonable percentage. So I'm just going to pour half of this into the air still drum. That will do. So I've got 1.4 litres of water here, and I'm just going to pour all that in, and that's now just under the full mark. It's definitely less than 40% at that. So now I've just got to get the air still put back together. So once again, I'm all set up on that side, wired in, and on that side, wired in. So I've got my collection vessel underneath. It's a case of turning it on and then holding it until it goes green, taking the finger out and waiting for it to kick in with the fan. And now it's just a case, once again, of playing the waiting game. So essentially what I've got to do now is to run all this through the air still, collect the spirit, which will be 90%, then empty the rest of the demijohn in, dilute it, run that through again, etc, etc. I'll end up with a similar amount of spirit, which will be slightly cleaner, as it's still stripped out a bit more. This is the spirit run. Okay, once I've done the spirit run, once I've got it all recollected, then I'll come back to you. Catch you then. Hey folks, it's the next day, and here is all my collected spirit. So the first thing that I want to do is measure the ABV of this, and I will do so using an alcometer. So I'm just going to pour 100 ml into this hydrometer tube and then dip in the alcometer. And that sank to the very bottom. It was touching the bottom, but it's actually just floating a couple of millimetres off the bottom. So I'm going to get an accurate reading. And the ABV of this spirit is, as you can see on there, 90%. So 90% is an absolutely cracking output from the Airstill Pro. It really does deliver some brilliant, brilliant spirit. So I've measured the alcohol by volume. What I'm going to do now is measure the physical volume, because I'm going to dilute this with spring water down to 45% by adding exactly the same amount of spring water as what there is vodka spirit at the minute. So I've got two measuring jugs just here. So first of all, let's take out what's in the hydrometer tube. So this jug holds 2 litres when full, and in fact it is just under the 2 litre mark. Let's have a look. It's literally on about 1,950 ml. I'm just going to say 2 litres. It is just about there, to be quite honest. So I want to gently pour this back into the demijohn. So I've got some spring water, so I'm just going to put basically 1,950 ml of spring water into the same plastic jug that the vodka was just in. So by me adding this spring water into the demijohn, I'm diluting the spirit by half. So it will go from being 90% to being 45% ABV, which is a good percentage for gin, isn't it? Let's face it. I know there's a bit of discoloration, but that will soon clear up. So I've got 1 kilo of juniper berries, and what I need to do now is measure out 400 grams, because I'm going to add 10%. That's the ratio I'm going for. I've got 4 litres of spirit just here, so I'm going for 10% the ratio for juniper berries per spirit. So 4 litres of spirit equals 400 grams of juniper berries. That should give it a good strong gin flavour. Scales 0. There we go, 401 grams, that will do. So here's my 400 grams of juniper berries. I'm going to put some of them in whole, but I'm going to smash some of them up as well. So I'll just gently pour a few through the funnel until the funnel gets clogged. That was a bad idea. Try again. Oh, it's going to be annoying. Right, bigger funnel. Yes, it exists. I don't very often have to resort to using this one. Still gets stuck. There we go. So you can see the juniper berries in there like black peas. Right, I want to smash them apart now. And I'm going to do so using my coffee bean grinder, the noisy bit. Now, smashing them apart releases a lot more smell and flavour. Wow! Oh, that is intense. So I'm going to get a combination of different sort of juniper flavours. The whole berry will give out a different flavour to the smashed apart berry. So in this goes. So I'm going to repeat that with the remainder of them. So just over a third have gone in whole and just under 2/3 are going in broke apart. And in they go. So they are now all in, and you can see this is going to make a nice big mess in there, but that's absolutely fine. It will be filtered afterwards. So I'm going to get the airlock back into the demijohn. I'm going to give it a swish around, and you can see that this is all mixing and messing together. And I want this to sit now. So I just want all that juniper berry to macerate into the spirit. I want it to really, really infuse the flavour. And then I'm going to divide this in two, and I'm going to do half as orange gin and half as apple gin. Right, I'll come back to you in a couple of weeks' time. See you then. Good morning from the kitchen, folks. It's actually about 10 days later, and having sought the advice from some friends, I've decided that possibly now is the good time to get the gin away from the juniper berries, racked and cleared a little bit. So as you can see, looking at the gin in there, it's very dark. It doesn't look very ginny. So today I'm simply racking into a fresh, clean demijohn, and I'm going to do so using a funnel and a coffee machine filter that will catch the hard bits of juniper berry and let the liquid through the funnel into the new demijohn. It's just a very gradual pouring process. It does smell very ginny, so that's obviously a good sign. Here goes nothing. So the funnel's going to fill up quickly, and I'll keep needing to empty it. And when I say the funnel, I mean the filter. This gin is never going to be a clear white spirit, but this will begin the lightening process. It is going to get further filtered beyond this. Okay, so that's what I've got, and I need these berries to drain and drip. I don't want to waste any gin. But these juniper berries are now going to be discarded onto the garden as compost. So I'm really just playing the waiting game now, waiting for this to finish doing what it's doing. I've got the rest to pour in, obviously. There's no point in watching me just do all that. It's not that exciting. I'll come back to you when I've done it all. See you in a bit. Okay, there's my waste juniper berries. There's the gin. And here's another clean demijohn now. This time with a filter paper inside the filter and the funnel. And I'm going to see if I can actually clear this a little bit more. So I'm just pouring this through. If you can hear any background noise, that's the shower upstairs. It's not this. Right, this is going to be a painstaking process. I'll come back to you when I've got some progress here. Okay, it's all filtered now, so it should be a lot clearer. I kept having to change the paper because those microparticles kept clogging it up. I've probably changed the paper about 8 times. But what I've got should be a bit clearer. And in fact, if I put it on the windowsill, can I see through it? Yeah, just about. It's not perfectly clear. So that was an exercise in clearing it, but it was also quite a futile exercise in clearing it because I wasn't thinking what I was doing, and I've still got to blooming flavour it, so I'm going to muck it up again. Sometimes I could really shout at myself. Right, what I need to do now is split it across both demijohns so I've got the same amount in each without wasting it. So I said I was going to flavour these 1 apple and 1 orange. So this is my apple. This is dehydrated apple. And this is simply apple from my own apple tree, which I've dehydrated and then run through a coffee grinder to break it up into these small pieces. And that's literally what that is. It's got skins, it's got all sorts amongst it, but that is pure apple, no additives. So this will become the apple one, and I fashioned a bit of a dodgy looking funnel from a coffee filter paper because I need to be able to get that into there without it going everywhere. It's quite possibly easier said than done, but let's see what happens. Really does smell good and appley. In terms of amount, I really don't know how much to put in. I'm going to leave it for another 10 days. I think I'm just going to play it by ear. When it looks like it's enough, it's enough. I think I'm going to call it a day at that. There's probably about 10 heaped soup spoonfuls gone in there, which is going to be the equivalent of probably half a dozen apples. It might not look like it, but really when you dehydrate it, it takes out nearly all of the mass. So I'm just giving this a shake around. So this is why it was pointless me doing the coffee paper filtering. Yes, the big filtering with the just with the filter, great, but with the coffee paper I should have waited until I'd done this. I'm an idiot, never mind. Right, so this one is done for now. So I'm just going to put the airlock back in when I can find it. Here we go, this is just to protect it, not because it's going to ferment, it's just to stop anything nasty getting in there. And I'm going to put this away back into my office in the dark and cool for the next 10 days. Okay, this is for my orange gin, and this is dehydrated orange, as you can see. Again, I've just done this in my food dehydrator. It's really delicious actually. Even the skins, really good. Anyway, all I'm going to do with these is cut them up into really small pieces and pop them in the demijohn. Oops. Try to get them in the demijohn and not in the sink. In fact, let's get the funnel back in. The dodgy paper funnel, which actually works. Can anyone recommend a good demijohn width funnel for getting chunkier objects into your demijohns? If you can, please say so in the comments and I'll get one. I normally use a dishwasher funnel for adding salt, but I can't find it. So anyway, I'm going to get a few of these slices in. I'll come back to you when they're in there. See you shortly. Just as a late update, I've ended up blitzing the orange in the coffee grinder. It's easier. Great stuff. Really smells marmalade-y, which really isn't surprising. Right, I'll get this lot in and I'll come back to you. Right, that's all the orange in. Just going to give that a swoosh around. It does smell very, very ginny. So hopefully this will make a nice orange gin. I'm kind of half wondering whether to redistill it again afterwards so it comes out clear. But if I do that, I'm going to lose the flavour. I'll think about it. Right, again, airlock in. So both of these gins are going in my office now for another 10 days. So the next update will be after that. And all I'm going to do in the interim is each day just give them a little swirl around like this, just so that the bits and bobs are mixing together. Right, catch you in 10 days' time. Afternoon from the kitchen, folks. It's about 10 days later. Let's have a look at that apple gin. Well, here it is, and it doesn't look anything like a gin at the minute. And I'm still undecided as to whether to run this through the air still again or not. But for now, I'm not going to do. But what I am going to do is refilter it like you saw me do with the juniper berries. I'm going to filter it through a funnel with one of these in to begin with, and then I'm going to refilter it with the filter paper in. So you've seen me do the filtration process with the one with the juniper berries in. You don't need to watch me repeat it for this one, but I'll come back to you once I've filtered it and I've scratched my head and decided what I'm going to do about whether I'm going to redistill it or bottle it. So I'll catch you then. So I've managed to separate the apple on the first one, and this is now in a jug. But I'm just going to show you this now because I'm just doing something a little bit novel. I'm using my coffee percolator with the filter paper in. I've cleaned it all out, that's why it's steamy on the lid. But I'm just going to pour it through there. I'll show you what I've got when it's done. Afternoon from the kitchen, folks. I'm back with a gin update. So let's have a look at the very dark coloured gin, which looks more like whiskey or brandy. It's been cleared, it's been filtered, and it's difficult to see through it from that angle. But if I show, that's the apple one, but if I show you the orange one, you can see kind of that it is quite opaque. It's not perfectly clear, but I think I'm going to go with it as it is. Now, I could have redistilled it and come out with a completely clear spirit, and that's how gin, you know, traditionally should look. However, I'm sort of concerned if I do that, it's going to sort of revert back to tasting like vodka, and it might lose the juniper and fruit flavour a little bit. So I'm going to go with it as it is for the time being, and if I decide once I've broke into it and start drinking it that I don't like it, then redistilling it is still an option. But as it stands, I'm going to bottle it as is. So I'm just bottling into a range of different spirit bottles that I've got over there. And it's simply a case of just pouring in through a funnel. No more filtering required. So this is going to be a litre of apple gin. And in all honesty, that doesn't look too bad. So if I just hold this up to the light, you can see through the bottle there. I think that looks pretty okay. So I'm going to bottle the rest of this and then I'll come back to you. So one thing that I've neglected to do is to take the final alcohol by volume. So I'm just going to do that right now in the bottles. So this is the apple gin. I'm losing a little bit, unfortunately. And that one looks to me like it has finished on 38% ABV. So that's gone down slightly with the fruit matter addition in there. But 38 is what it's looking like. And I'm still fine with that. 38 is still good. And the orange one. Now that one seems to have gone down a bit more. That one looks like it's finishing on 35% ABV. I'm wondering if this is accurate. I wonder if the sugars that are in the fruits have caused the liquid to be a bit denser than what it otherwise would have been, which is therefore giving a lower ABV. I actually don't know the answer to this, so if anybody does know, then please let me know. So at present, I thought I'd started off with something that was 45, but it does seem to have come down. So it's either come down because it's been bulked out with fruit matter, or it's come down because it's become denser with the sugars that have come into it from the fruit. So if anyone could let me know your thoughts on this and what you think the answer is, then I'd be grateful. But as it currently stands, it's looking like 38% for the apple and 35%, which is a bit low, but never mind, for the orange. So here's what I have got. So this one is apple. This one is 90% apple and 10% orange, just to fill the bottle up. That one's orange, and that one, which is going to be a sampler, is orange. Distinct colour difference between the apple and orange. I've gone from Coca-Cola to Tizer in terms of the colours. I'm now going to add a tiny bit of vegetable glycerin into each bottle, just a few drips. It just smooths it out a little bit, it reduces the harshness. You don't need to put too much in. I'm literally just dribbling a little bit, because if you put too much in, it can taste a bit soapy. Right, I've got my bottles labelled, here they are, and looking rather nice. I love the colour of the orange one. When you hold it up to the light, you really can see through it. But yeah, very good, I'm happy enough. So I'll come back to you with an opening and tasting film in a couple of weeks' time. See you then. Good evening from the kitchen, folks. It's the grand opening and tasting night for my apple and my orange flavoured gins. It's 2 months since they were bottled. and now I'm going to open them. I've just left them. There's no reason why it's 2 months. I've just not bothered. Before I go any further, I want to apologise for the background noise because the AirStill Pro is doing its thing. I've got it working hard. So I'm sorry if that's a distraction, but hopefully it won't be too much of a distraction. Right, apple or orange? Which one do I go first? Apple's alphabetically first. Let's go with apple. So what I'm going to do to begin with is just put a little bit in a shot glass, have a sniff, have a taste, and tell you what I think. Now I'm going to be honest with you, I'm not a big spirits drinker and I don't drink spirits neat, so my reaction might not reflect the actual quality because I might turn my face up a little bit at it if I don't particularly like what I'm tasting. So that's quite normal for me because I never ever drink gin neat, to be honest. So now it's got a slight whiff of, you know when you make spirits in the AirStill, they all have a little bit of the same sort of whiff, and it has got a bit of that going on. Hopefully that's not going to come through too much in the taste. I wasn't getting gin from the smell, I must admit 100% I wasn't. So in terms of clarity, it actually doesn't look too bad. You can see through it, but it doesn't look like a gin, does it? It's a whiskey to look at. And maybe I should have distilled it again to get it clear, but you know what, I think it would have just gone back to vodka if I had done. Whoa! Oh! I'm getting the juniper berries now. It's a gin. Yeah, I'm not a neat gin fan at all, as I've said. It is a gin. Would I have guessed it's apple? No, but I would have guessed it was a flavour, but I wouldn't have guessed apple, I'm being completely honest. So I'm going to try it diluted with some lemonade or some tonic very shortly, so we'll look at that afterwards. Fresh shot glass, let's try the orange. I like the look of the orange one more, it's got that nice sort of orangey, marmaladey, gingery colour to it. Again, it doesn't look like a gin, but more attractive than the apple colour. Not as got a, this smell isn't as pungent as that one, it's not got that same pungency. Is that a word, pungency? I just made it up. Oh, I can taste the orange in that. That's quite nice actually. It's a bit like Cointreau on steroids. Not as sticky and syrupy as Cointreau, but it's got that flavour. Orange, obviously. It's not unpleasant. If I had to drink it neat, I would, but I'd rather not. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get some mixer, try mixing it, and I'll give you a further review. Okay, so I've got them both in tumblers. I've got the apple one, which is the darker one, and the orange one, which is the lighter one. Start with the apple. I'm just going to put a bit of lemonade in. I was going to go tonic, but I think lemonade will go nicer, in all honesty. I think it might be a bit harsh with tonic. Now, interestingly, when I've put that lemonade in there, it's made it go a bit cloudy. There is a word for this, a term, I've read about this online, but yeah, it's just like some sort of reaction. I don't know the actual technical term, but I'm sure somebody can tell me in the comments. But definitely much better with lemonade. It's not really my thing though, I've got to say. Does the apple flavour come through? No, it's just like random miscellaneous strong spirit flavour. I wouldn't have known it was apple, no chance. Let's try the orange one. And again, that's gone cloudy and milky as well. Let's have a little taste of it. Yeah, that one's better. The apple one I'm not keen on. The orange one is doable, it's passable. But I'm not a massive spirit fan. Why have I even got a still? Well, that's for my dad mostly, to be honest, he enjoys it. But yeah, so they don't look very nice with the mixer in. Look how cloudy and yucky they've gone. But the orange one is definitely the more palatable of the two. So it's been an interesting journey. I'm not saying it's 100% success. I've made something, but yeah, quality wise, jury is still out there. Anyway, I would like to thank once again brewathome.shop for the loan of the Airstill Pro. They've been absolutely superb about it, so thank you fellas, really appreciated. Need to get the picture for the front of the film. Why do I always do that? Right, cheers folks, catch you next time. The film that you've just watched is a Moss Home and Garden production. You can find more by going to www.mosshomeandgarden.co.uk. I'd just like to say thank you very much for supporting my YouTube channel and for watching my films. It really is very much appreciated. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to my YouTube channel in order to receive future updates about the home and garden films which I upload. You can find my YouTube channel by going to www.mosshomeandgarden.co.uk. Please click on the red subscribe button. When you've done that, a little bell will appear. If you press that also, then you'll get future updates about the films which I upload. If you like my films, if you like my style of filming, then you might also like my travel channel, which you will find by going to youtube.com/Stuart Moss or type in www.mosstravel.tv. Again, if you could subscribe to that channel, it would be hugely appreciated. If you'd like to get Moss Home and Garden updates on Facebook, then please open Facebook and do a search for Moss Home and Garden, and you will find the page. If you like the page, then you will get future updates on there. And if you'd like to connect on Instagram for home, garden and travel photography, as well as some stories, then my username is StuMoss, STUMOSS. If you'd like to connect on Twitter, then my username is @StuartMoss. And if you'd like to contact me about film usage or any other issue, please just email me on stewmosshomegarden@gmail.com. Once again, thank you very much for supporting my channel, for watching my films. I do appreciate it. I'd just like you all to have a great day.